Just does it ever seem like sobriety is just loads and loads of sudden and very big changes, but then at the same time, like no changes at all up here? Welcome to the Sober Shed. Hi, welcome back to this Sober Shed where we are booze free and bewildered. Today we are talking about change. I'm going to be talking a lot about my own personal experiences with giving up drinking and then starting again and then stopping and starting, and you know how it goes, the whole crazy carousel. So just to get out of the way, first of all, I'm a little bit nervous. A lot of people seem to talk so comfortably and so easily about sobriety, and I can only assume that it's like a muscle that you flex, that you get stronger with, because I don't feel like I'm anywhere near that. It must take time. Like, surely no one quits drinking and then they can just go talk about this stuff really comfortably. And I was a drinker for 25 years, and I've been in very bumpy sobriety now for 2 years. So I just feel like in those 2 years, I haven't kind of learnt the language or found the confidence really to talk about this stuff. I find it remarkable that people can just talk so openly. There's a lot of things that I know are still kept in dark places that I don't think I'm ready to go to yet. I really, really want to. I'm talking to you, and I desperately want to be able to get this stuff out. It's just kind of buried in there. But that's what happens, right? We hide stuff away and we don't talk about it for many, many, many years. I mean, I don't know about you, but for 25 years, I wasn't talking about my relationship with alcohol. I was drinking alcohol. Now I'm ready to talk about alcohol, but I kind of just don't even know where to begin. So I'm going to begin kind of in the obvious place, really, which is me. And that whole kind of messy business, really. So I'm going to try and be myself. That's the advice that everyone seems to give, which obviously is hard anyway, because sobriety is kind of just this place of transition, especially if your sobriety is bumpy, which mine definitely is. Then it is a huge place of transition. So it's very hard to be yourself, because that's the thing, right? You're kind of figuring out who yourself is. So I started drinking at 15. I said this in my previous video. Started at 15, took to it like a duck to water, and then it just was in my life forever. I mean, I could pretty much just stop there. I kind of feel like that's not really giving enough though, but because I'm kind of nervous about talking about it, the temptation is just to go, then that's it. I think what Matthew Perry said in his book about he had his first drink and it felt like he found the answer to his problems, that resonated with me a lot. And that really is the best way to explain what alcohol became in my life from that moment onwards. I mean, it fluctuated in and out, obviously, throughout the years. During those early kind of teens, 20s, and early 30s, my drinking very much blended in with everybody else's. Certainly no one would have suspected that I was drinking more or had any more of a problem than the average British drinker. You know, it kind of hides in plain sight. I think it did for me, and it does for many, many people. And then as the years went on, I began to notice that there were periods when it would, I want to say dip, because that was how it really felt, but I would drink more. I was drinking more, and I was aware that I was drinking more, and it always coincided with a bad time. I don't mean like getting blackout drunk. There's nothing acute about it. It was very chronic. It was months and months and months of a gradual kind of landslide, which meant that I didn't really notice it, and nobody else would have either. I know I'm being quite vague, but that's just, like I said, I'm struggling to find the way to talk about this stuff, really. Anyway, so that was how it was. We get to 2023, and I get married in November, go on honeymoon, come back to the Christmas period. So that was wedding, honeymoon, Christmas, very heavy time, obviously. And by Christmas, I was aware that it was like the accumulation of my life was starting to catch up with me. And there had been this Groundhog Day feeling in my life for a long time. I think that if you're the kind of drinker that I was, that, see how that was weird to say, but Groundhog Day is the best way to describe it. There weren't rock bottoms as such. Every day just felt the same for about 25 years. Then, yeah, Christmas came after my wedding and my honeymoon and everything, which was Christmas 2023. And I had a health scare and turned out to be absolutely nothing. But, if you've been a heavy drinker and then a medical professional says that they want to scan your liver, then it makes you stop and think. And I just realized that the time had come really for me to take a long, hard look at my drinking. And I had also become aware that I had this vague sense that there was a better way to be. There was a better way to live. I had no idea what that would look like, this better way. I just sensed that from the Groundhog Day feeling that had been for so long, which wasn't catastrophic, but was just like living with kind of a background of depression, that if I stopped drinking, something would be on the other side of it. And I wanted to see what that was going to be. So, 1st of January 2024, stop drinking. In fact, the first time that I made videos about alcohol were at this time. They were just on my phone, and it was like a video diary that I was making for myself to just download my thoughts. And I would watch back exactly 1 month later when I would then film the next one. And it was really useful. And I was very confused through most of it, as I'm confused now, but I think I'm confused in a slightly different way then. I mean, that first month, I had my why in place. I knew why I wasn't drinking. I knew it was a health thing, and I knew I wanted to see what was going to be on the other side of not drinking. But I was still enormously confused about how I felt, because it wasn't all just, yay, I'm not drinking now, this is great. Obviously, it wasn't that. But anyway, what I really wanted to talk about with regards to this is the changes that happened, and how those changes led to me drinking again, and then stopping again, and then starting again, because I think that they played a really big role in it, and that change in sobriety is something that's very complicated, incredibly personal. So I'm just talking about my own experience now. But so here we go. I had some changes happen really fast. There was the sleep thing. I had thought that I was an insomniac for years. For years, I genuinely thought that I had insomnia, and it was just 25 years of hangovers. But there was that. I started sleeping really well, and that was miraculous, was how it felt to me. The skin thing. Many people talk about their skin gets great. I had this acne outbreak that lasted for 6 weeks, and weight loss. A lot of weight loss. I dropped 13 kilos. One day, maybe I'll put up a before and after, because I really look like a different person 2 years ago to how I look now. So all of that obviously is really visible stuff. You see change happening before your eyes. You feel it in your own body. You feel it in your own clothes. It's really striking and noticeable, and it's the kind of change that people comment on. Not always great, but people do comment on it. So it gives you this huge sense of progression, right? Like, things have really been changing in my life. Obviously, this is really making some growth happen. But at the same time, for months, it never felt like anything was changing up here. My head felt exactly the same. The only difference there now was this sense of being lost. And I can only see now that, like, well, yeah, you don't stop drinking and become a non-drinker. So it's not like becoming a vegetarian, where you stop eating meat and boom, you're a vegetarian. Stop drinking, you're just a drinker minus a drink. Everything in here is still hardwired the way it was when you were drinking. So now you're just navigating your life like this lost creature, not knowing how to live in your own life anymore. That's not to mention the triggers and everything else that come into play. And my triggers were spread spread evenly, thick and far, in my day-to-day life and beyond. Everything from the time of day to I've got to go and meet some people at a party or whatever. You know what I mean? The triggers were everywhere to begin with. So with this mixture of having some very quick changes happening, and also a sense that nothing really was changing at all, and add in triggers and just general discomfort and everything. There was kind of this perfect storm being created where, on the one hand, I could tell myself that I had made loads of progress and I was much healthier than I was before, la di da. Whilst underneath it all, I knew that I hadn't really made any huge changes. I certainly hadn't got to this, you know, beyond this, the grass being greener place that I was expecting to find. And so what happened was I had a drink. It was in July. We were in London. It was my husband's birthday. He also stopped drinking on the 1st, by the way. But it was very different for him because he didn't really drink before he met me. So when he stopped drinking, he said to me sometime later, "Oh, this just feels to me like going back to. It feels good. It just feels like I'm going back to my normal." And I remember saying to him at some point, like, we are not having the same experience. We aren't having the same experience at all. So we're in London for his birthday, and because we never said that we're never drinking again, we were just taking a break for our health and things. The door was always open to have a drink anyway. And so we're in London. The event that we're going to in the evening doesn't start for hours yet, and we fall into the lull in the afternoon that would usually or normally or previously been filled with, oh, we'll go for a drink. And we're kind of just, mooching around in London, don't want to go do any touristy stuff. We've already eaten. Like, there really was just this gap in the day. I was going to say, I can't remember which of us suggested it, but it would have been me. Said, well, why don't we go? Why don't we go for a drink then? And so we did, and we went to our favourite bar in London. We had a cocktail each, and if anyone out there is wondering what would that glass of wine be like, or what would that beer be like, I can tell you now exactly what it would be like. There'd be a fraction of a second where you'd sip it and go, yes, it tastes exactly as I remember. Very quickly followed by a kind of, nah, that's disappointing. And then followed by, I just ended my, fill in the gap, however long, 7 months for me, stretch of sobriety for me. Then the gloves were off. So, I mean, I didn't go crazy or anything like that because my kind of drinking had never really been of the crazy variety anyway. It wasn't peaks and troughs, it was just spread evenly throughout. But it allowed for that to start to reappear in my life again, which it did. Not heavily, not instantly. I probably didn't have another drink for a month or so after that. And then it was just very steady and a slipping back of the way things have been. And then we're running up to Christmas again. And Christmas last year is something I'm going to talk about in a totally separate video because that was a bad time. So anyway, drinking again, and it is just coming back into my life as it had done before. And then we get to January 2025, and I am done. I just feel so done and disappointed. I'm disappointed in myself. And it's taken that long. It's taken months now of drinking again to have this sense of loss of where I had been before, of where I was when I was in my 7 months sobriety stint. I missed it. I really, really missed it. It was only then as well that I could look back and see how Groundhog Day had reappeared. Every day felt the same again. And it's like, for me, drinking is just like someone hits pause with their hand and my life just comes to a stop. And that pause feeling was back. And I hated it. I think that during the Christmas period, the build up, which, obviously here starts in like November. So it had been weeks and weeks of shiny, sparkly, glittery, yay, mulled wine, or whatever. But really, underneath all of that, and especially once I was in the new year and looking back at it, it was like, it's just the same. It's the same thing again. I'm back there. I'm back there. And I stopped drinking again, and I remembered this time this expression of "you choose your hard," because you know what, sobriety is hard, and there are days when it's really hard. When, I don't know, you lose a loved one, or when you have to go to a wedding, like either end of those extremes, and bills or stresses in a relationship, anything, you know how it goes. Just the general stresses of life mean that sobriety is hard, but The other option for me, which was Groundhog Day again, is another kind of hard. It's a hopeless place. It's If I stay in Groundhog Day, I know exactly how my life is going to look going forward. It's how it's looked for the last 25 years. Emotionally, there's not going to be there's no change there. There's no growth there whatsoever. So yes, sobriety is hard, but it's where all of the change happens. And I hadn't really seen that until I had gone back to drinking and had felt the hand hit pause again in my life. And then I could see that, yeah, every time you do lose a loved one or you go to a wedding, whatever the examples were that I gave, as hard as those are at the time, you're always learning in that space and you're always growing in that space because you're not drinking in it. So it means that becomes that much easier. You've done it. And I would much, much rather be going through the hard times in sobriety with a sense of growth and change than be going back to Groundhog Day, hitting pause where there's no change ever. In change is where we find hope. It's where we find our future, and it's the space that we can grow into. Yeah, you have to choose your hard, and it has to be sobriety every single time, because otherwise, what are you going back to? You know exactly what you would be going back to. We're all familiar with what that looked like for us. There's a reason why it has to stay in the past. It was no good. Don't go there. So far this year, I have had one drink, which was on my mum's 70th birthday. Other than that, it's been a dry year, and I'm very much hoping, and I believe that I will get out the other side of this year having had just that one drink, and then on to next year to have a completely dry one. And I think that the bumps in the road should lessen. But I really wanted to make this video today just to talk about how change and growth happens in these different bizarre ways within sobriety, and then it's not just this linear thing where you stop drinking and then woof, you're off. I know it looks different for everybody. If you have made it this far and seen the whole video, then thank you so much. It means so much to me. Like I said, I am new to this. I'm very nervous, and if anyone has had experiences like this with these two different types of change going on, I would love to hear about them in the comments section, or even just if anything I have said has sounded familiar to you or resonated with you, then I would love to hear that as well. So, join me here. I would absolutely, I'd love to make some friends. So that's it for today for this video. Next time I'm going to be talking about comfort blankets. So I will hopefully see you in the next video, and until I do, take care. Thank you.